What's up, everybody? Welcome back. Did y'all see that? What?
Let's just throw Scream 6 in there for like
It was good.
movie. It was really good. The best of the franchise, in my opinion, since the first one.
Yeah.
Everything happens for a reason. So your life is going to develop and move the way that it's supposed to. So I very much just give it up to the world now. Like I'm literally just like, whatever. Because also like the way home, I didn't even know about it until a week before. I remember like I had sent in the callback and then I started following Sadie and I saw that she posted the first day on set of season 3. And I remember I saw it and went, oh, I didn't get it because I didn't hear anything. So I went to go get my hair done. And I have foils in my hair being like, all right, new era. That's fine. And then my agent texted me and she's like, you got the way home. And I was like, what?
Wait,
oh my God.
what?
And they're like, yeah, you need to be on set in 3 days. And I was like, oh God. Like, so then you're like, oh, and at that time, I think I was definitely going in a different direction, like 100%. And then I was like, okay, I got to reel that in because that's not what's important. That's not what I need to focus on anymore. This is what's important right now, you know?
Right.
So it's about being like intuitive enough to know where you need to focus your energy and like when is the time to go and have a rest and when do you need to see your friends because they heal you and you love them and your family. Like it's very like one thing always leads to the next, you know?
Hello everyone. So you want to start a podcast but have no idea where to start? Well, Crazy Ant Media is here to help you. We want to assist you finding your VFE. What's VFE, you ask? Well, that is your voice, your format, and your equipment. These are the 3 biggest essentials you need to start your podcast. All those hours watching non-stop YouTube videos or all those random website links, those are done. Just hop on a Zoom call with us and we'll talk about everything you need to know to create your own podcast and find your voice. Plus, we will send you home with a 12-page packet over everything we just discussed. It's very in-depth. It is definitely a must-need while trying to start your first podcast. Contact us at info@crazyantmedia.com today so that you can start finding your podcast voice for tomorrow.
What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of ITCAFpodcast. Oh my goodness, it is episode 287, and we're super excited because you guys know your host with the most, myself, J. Logan Austin, aka J-Lo Fantastic, and the one and only Dustin M. Bergman, aka The Mouse.
What's up?
Man, oh man, before teasing the rest of the show, of course, be sure to leave a rating on this podcast. Comment below and tell us what you actually think about the show. Because if you didn't know, leaving a rating on the podcast actually helps up-and-comers find this podcast, and it lends the helping hand for those who are trying to break into the entertainment industry. But if you just like entertainment news, we're here for you as well. We're all things informative pop culture, man. We're super excited to bring it to a whole brand new audience, and we need your help to do that. So please be sure to like, share, comment, all the good things to help spread the word about ITCAF Podcast, man. And oh my goodness, on today's episode, we will be recapping the 97th Oscar ceremony, man. The good, the bad, and the ugly. Of course, it was Sean Baker and Anora's big night, but what does this mean for indie film in the future? Dustin, how are you feeling about everything?
I've got some thoughts on what it means for indies and moving forward with the Oscars, but I've really got one word to describe how I felt about this year's Oscars. Boring. Boring. I was bored stiff. It's already a long show, but it felt like it took an eternity to get through this year. And I mean, we'll talk about it, but yeah, if I had to sum it up, if one person was asking me, how did I feel about it? Boring. It was boring.
Oh boy, super excited to jump into all the nitty-gritty, juicy details of what that means. And man, oh man, it's going to be a fun freaking show. But before getting into all of it, of course, be sure to head over to our website, www.crazyantmedia.com, where you can start rocking the latest and greatest Crazy Ant Media gear. We got a little bit of something for a little bit of everyone. We got shirts, hats, hoodies, everything, man. Be sure to head over there right here, right now, at Crazy Ant Media com. But like we said, this whole show is mostly going to be about the 97th Oscars, man. Wow. 19.7 million people turned into ABC's telecast of the 97th Academy Awards on Sunday, making it the most watched primetime entertainment, meaning non-sports and non-news, telecast of the 2024-2025 television season thus far. Now, it has also had the highest rating amongst adults ages ranging between 18 and 49 this season with a 3.92. Now, that is an up 3% from last year. And even isolated to adults 18 to 34, it was the highest rated Oscars in the last 5 years with 3.17. Now, overall, that's a 1% increase from the year before, representing a 5-year high for the Oscars in both total viewers and ratings. So we're very excited about this, and I made a social media post about it earlier this week. I was wrong. This year's award season actually did pretty decent. I don't want to say good because we're still very low. If you look at the numbers from like 10 years ago, it is absolutely insane. We're talking the Oscars were in like the 45 million range in like 2015, but now we're down to this point. But again, we've had a lot of things happen. We've had the strikes, we've had the pandemics, we've had, just different age ranges coming into adulthood and trying to figure out if this ceremony is even worth watching. And, we did, I would say 3 or 4 years ago, have like the lowest ratings ever. I think that was in like the 10 millions. So to get it back to the 19.7 million viewers range is a win, but it's still not where we want to be, right?
No, it's nowhere where we want it to be, not at all. But I will say, for anybody who works in the industry or understands the industry or just even has a little bit of knowledge, and for all of you guys that don't, 18 to 49, that's the coveted age group for advertisers. That's what every film, what every television show, what you're trying to target, that is the go-to. That's where the bread and butter and the money is. I'm a little shocked that the numbers were as high as they were with that age group, because really, other than Wicked and Ariana Grande, there wasn't a whole lot of films that would draw that age group. So maybe Mickey Madison is more popular than I'm aware of. I know she was in a Scream movie, but I'm trying to wrap my head around why those numbers increased. It's odd to me. I would have thought, okay, we got a 1% overall increase, but I would have thought the numbers in the coveted group would have dipped. And clearly they did not. So, that one's a little puzzling to me. Maybe we'll talk about that a little bit. I don't know. But you're definitely right. I mean, I remember back in the day, guys, when television, just normal television ratings back in the day, I'm talking like late 80s, mid 80s, late 80s, even into early 90s, average viewership was like 40 million people a night. Yeah, I mean, now that's like a massive hit, like, and unheard of nowadays if you got 40 million people. That was, keep in mind, the finale of MASH in 1984, 121 million viewers saw that thing. It is still the highest rated show in television history. Like, think about that. And now we get excited if a show gets picked up nowadays if it's averaging 6 million viewers a week. Like, the average used to be in the 40 millions. I don't know. Like you said, Anora was the big winner, and it did have a couple of things which was really cool. It took home 5 awards, of course, but I loved seeing this because he's a young director. Sean Baker's not an old guy, and for the first time, he took home 4 awards that night. He directed, he edited, he wrote it, and as a producer, he gets the Oscar for Best Picture. Now, that tied Walt Disney's record for the most Academy Awards won by a single person in a single year. But it's different, because Sean Baker did it by winning all 4 awards for the same film. Walt Disney was recognized in 1954 by 4 different projects. So this is the first person to ever win 4 Oscars for the same film in 1 year, which is impressive. And Zoe Saldana, the only bright spot in Amelia Perez's night, actually became the first American of Dominican descent to win an Oscar for Best Supporting Actress, which was really awesome. But then even she was hammered with controversy afterwards when they were asked, the post speeches, which, there's so much hate. It's just, that's my big thing, okay? Well, I tell you what, let's run through the list of all the winners in case you guys missed it, and then we'll dive into some thoughts about what we think and didn't think about it and where we think it's headed and all that kind of stuff. So let's run through the winners of the night. You want to start it off with Best Picture?
Of course, Best Picture came in with Anora.
Yes, and as I said, Best Actress was Mickey Madison for Anora.
That's right. And Best Actor, and honestly, the biggest splat, if we're going in Rotten Tomatoes terms when it comes to speeches, goes to Adrian Brody and The Brutalist. He's been here before.
Yes, and he likes to cause controversy with his speeches. I'll say that for him. Best Supporting Actor, Kieran Culkin for A Real Pain, which I loved.
Most definitely. And, of course, Best Supporting Actress, like you just mentioned, Zoe Saldana for Amelia Perez.
Yep. Best Director, Sean Baker for Anora.
Of course. Best Cinematography came in with The Brutalist.
Yep. Best Animated Feature was a shocker for most, I think. Flow took that bad boy home.
That definitely was a very big surprise. I definitely say so. Best Animated Short goes to In the Shadow of the Cypress.
Yes, Best Costume Design, pretty much by no surprise, went to Wicked.
Of course. Best Original Screenplay went to Anora, written by Sean Baker.
Yeah, I have thoughts on that one too. Best Adapted Screenplay, Conclave, Peter Strahan.
Yes. Best Makeup and Hairstyling. This just makes sense because Demi Moore definitely transformed when it comes to makeup and hairstyling in The Substance.
Yes, and Best Film Editing, as I said, Anora, Sean Baker.
Most definitely. And one of the highlights of the evening was the announcement of Best Production Design with Ben Stiller's joke. I thought that was absolutely hilarious. One of my favorite parts of the night, honestly. But the winner in this category for Best Production Design goes to Wicked, Nathan Crowley and Leah Saldana.
Yes. And then Best Original Song, which you didn't get to hear performed. Nope. We're going to talk about that too. Went to Il Mal by Amelia Perez. That's Clement Decoy, Camille, and Jacques Audiard.
Yes, I love that song too. I mean, I've been playing it all week since the ceremony. Since watching the film.
Who wouldn't have wanted to see Zoe hammer that out on stage? Oh my God. Yeah, we'll talk about it.
For sure. Best Documentary Short goes to Netflix with The Only Girl in the Orchestra.
Yes, and of course you can't have Best Documentary without Best Documentary Feature Length, which went to No Other Land.
Yes. Best Sound goes to Dune Part 2.
Best Visual Effects, Dune Part 2.
Best Live Action Short, I Am Not a Robot.
Best International Feature. I think this one surprised a lot of people as well, but I was here for it. I'm Still Here. No pun intended. I'm here for. Did not mean that. I'm Still Here. That's your Best International Feature.
Yes. And then the Best Original Score, rounding out all of the 23 categories, goes to The Brutalist, Daniel Blumberg.
Yes.
So yeah, man, it was a very interesting award show, I would say. And since we started watching it as a collective group at Crazy Ant Media, I said that I think this was the most boring award season.
Yeah.
And I mean, it was like a slice of Wonder Bread, okay? There was nothing really wrong with it, but there was nothing really great with it. You know, you had your highlights like the Ben Stiller production category, like I mentioned, Adam Sandler being there at the very beginning. But the weird things were like the freaking, okay, let's be honest about it. Conan did pretty good
the
things that he was on stage for. But the song about not wasting time that wasted so much time,
Yeah.
that was completely unnecessary. And then the James Bond tribute was honestly completely unnecessary as well.
Yeah.
I have a little theory about that though, because we know that the family no longer controls the creative rights anymore, and that Amazon MGM controls the creative rights of the James Bond franchise. So I'm wondering if there was some sort of lucrative deal between Amazon MGM and the Academy to be like, hey, let's recognize the James Bond franchise because, this family is relieving control.
I think it's the other way. I think the Academy did a little push to say, this is a popular franchise and maybe you should fucking pick a new James Bond and make another movie. Because there's talks that Amazon is not in a hurry to do that. And and so I think it was just the opposite. I don't think that any kind of a deal was made between them. I think this was the movie lovers and the Academy saying, hey, hello, this is a big franchise. It's been around for 60 plus years. Maybe you want to do something with it. So I think it was more that, to just a subtle reminder of the popularity of the franchise and the score. And I mean, the score's iconic, everybody knows it, So yeah, I think it was kind of that. And I'm right there with you with the, since you went there first, it made no sense to me to not have the best original song performances. They said it was in order to save time so that it could pay tribute to the firefighters. They said that they were trying to clean it up and make it a little bit shorter. But then you did a full-on thing with Wicked, which you should have just let them perform the song, that they were nominated for. And then you did 4 James Bond songs in one big, huge thing. That's 5 songs. There's 5 original songs up front. You could have just let them perform the songs. I think it was a slap in the face. And if I was those people, if I was the composers and the writers for those songs and even the performers, I'd have been pissed when I found out that they were still going to do music. I thought it was, we're just not going to do music to save time, and then here's all these musical performances. I'd have been a little upset, and I kind of think that detracted from the overall show. And I'll say, and I'll lead into this by saying, one of the things that I missed, and it's been vacant for several years now, it's supposed to be Hollywood's biggest night, huge celebration, the awe of. I miss the days when Billy Crystal would open it up and he would do this huge song and dance number with all of the Best Picture nominees. Remember, he'd come out in costume all the time, but it was always this big, huge, glorious song and dance routine highlighting the Best Picture nominees. I miss that. I miss the over-the-top, big thrill of it. That's what it's supposed to be about, is like this big, epic night celebrating film. And I feel like that's been desperately missing the last decade or so. I just don't feel like it's a celebration anymore. It just seems like, even when they're doing Best Picture nominees now, I know that the past couple of years they've had the stars up there kind of doing the introduction to it, but it's not, it just seems drab to me. I don't know. It's not like it used to be, and I want to see more fanfare. I want to see more show, because that's what it's all about, right? Like,
yeah, I completely agree. This is show business, and this is the film industry's biggest night. But yeah, I definitely feel like they dropped the ball with everything. But I do think the whole award season was kind of taken off track because of the Amelia Perez controversy. I definitely think if it wasn't for that film would have taken home the majority of the awards that it was nominated for. Because honestly, in my opinion, Anora is not, like, it's fine. It's a fine film. There's nothing wrong with it. But I think it won after the controversy, and strictly due to one of 2 scenes. Either the final scene that is in the film where she realizes that she has to go back to her normal life after thinking that she got out of what was a very bad situation, or the scene where, her and her co-star are yelling in each other's faces, which both of those scenes are very, very homage to the artist. They're very, they imply something more than what is actually being said, what is on, the words that are on the paper. But it's not the best thing ever. And I mean, of course, we've saw posts and things about this past week how the Academy acknowledges prostitutes and the sex workers community and all of these different things, but literally the first 45 minutes of this film is basically nothing but sex, and I felt like it was unnecessary. Like I just did not agree with anything that went towards this film. Like I said, I just think that there were other great films that could have been a better representation of films that could start a conversation or could change the world in some particular way as far as how people approach other people. That's just my opinion. That's my hot take because I think Conclave did a much better job than Anora did.
Yeah, Conclave, and then I'll talk about the one that I think really could have and should have won way more awards than it did. But to touch on your Amelia Perez, and here it comes. Just shoot the comments my way. I don't care. Just say whatever you're going to say. But if this is about the art, it's about the film. It's about the performances. It's not about the person, right? And if we can, and here's where I'm saying direct your hate my way. If we can remove the person from O.J. Simpson and keep that man in the Football Hall of Fame and celebrate his Heisman and all that stuff, saying we're recognizing his contributions on the field, not what he did by murdering people, then why can we not do the same thing with we haven't exorcised Kevin Spacey yet. We haven't gotten rid of, there's so many, I feel like she apologized. She said it was wrong. I feel like most of the community admonished her by not allowing her to be on the red carpet or kept her away from the publicity. But to say we're just going to pack the film away and put it away and not recognize it at all, even though it was probably a better film than some of the other films, I just think is wrong. Either we're going to celebrate the art or we're going to talk about people, cancel culture people. Same thing with Zoe Saldana. We're not talking about her brilliant performance. No, afterwards, instead of congratulating her and talking about the highlight of, we're going to say, well, you misrepresented Mexico, and we're ashamed as Mexicans that you like, what are we doing? Like, I don't think that we should. This is about celebrating filmmakers and the art and film in general, not tearing people apart or stuff like that. I don't agree with anything that she said in her tweets. And I think it was horrible. I think they were disgusting. That said, it has nothing to do with the film or her performance in the film. And I just think we can do better. We can do, if you're gonna make those type decisions, maybe you should dig a little deeper before you cast somebody in the film. Dig deeper, look at her past before. If we're gonna go there, then do it prior to having the film come out, seeing all this buzz, generating all this huge stuff, and then tearing it apart. Like, it just doesn't make sense to me. And then the other thing I was going to say with you when you said, A Real Pain. I think that was a beautifully written script that addresses the Holocaust, addresses the hate towards the Jewish community. It addresses depression, mental health. There's so many things that this film so beautifully addressed. And I felt like we completely ignored the film. Completely ignored it. And I'm not taking anything away from Sean Baker and his script, but it's basically a modernized version, in my opinion, of Pretty Woman, where A Real Pain was a truly original, thought-out script written by Jesse Eisenberg about topical stuff that's happening in the world today, wrapped into a nice, tight-knit family drama about two cousins. And I thought, to have it completely ignored the way it was just really upset me because I thought it was a much better film than most of the other nominees. I was shocked that it didn't get any love.
Yeah, completely agree. I mean, obviously, Kieran Culkin was the guy who been
Right.
dominating his supporting actor category. So we did not, anticipate anything less than him winning the Academy Award. But I definitely think he was a winner of the night with the speeches as well.
Oh, yeah,
Because,
yeah.
I mean, the whole thing about, his wife promising him more kids if he wins an Oscar, that was hilarious.
That was so
Definitely.
funny.
Definitely a highlight, but I mean, there are also lowlights when it comes to some speeches as well.
Before
like
you dive there,
when-
because I know where you're going, but quick question for you. Don't you feel like it's a slap in the face to Jesse Eisenberg when you have a story like that where it's two focal characters that play off of each other? To recognize one and completely ignore the other makes no sense to me. Kieran Culkin's performance doesn't exist without Jesse Eisenberg's performance playing off of each other. So how do you ignore one completely and recognize the other? That's just my beef. That's just my beef. What do you think about that? Because they were two focal characters intertwined. I don't get that.
Yeah, completely agree. I mean, that whole dinner scene was honestly spectacular, and the whole time that Jesse Eisenberg was going through and doing his thing throughout the film was honestly beautiful. So yeah, with him not being recognized in the actor category and then didn't win the screenplay award, I definitely think they should have won the screenplay award rather than Anora. But and it's not just going back to the speeches, the acceptance speeches and the award speeches. It's not just Adrian Brody, but I'll get into that. It was also the Amelia Perez win when the lady started singing and didn't give anyone else an opportunity to speak. I felt like that was very shitty. Like the guy looked mad. The guy who co-wrote it with her looked mad and like stormed off way ahead of her. So that is very I completely agree on that. And then Adrian Brody, we already heard, doing my research with trying to fill out my ballot before the ceremony came up on Sunday, doing my research, realizing that Adrian Brody is kind of a douchebag when it comes to people he works with. So to see it come in full light during his acceptance speech, where he literally tells the control room to shut off the music, he's been here before, blah blah blah. That was very uptight. That is the definition of what the world thinks Hollywood is. Just entitled douchebags who think they're better than everyone else. And he is like the stereotypical actor who does think he's better than everyone else. Or at least it seemed that way in this particular moment. And he did not shine a good light on Hollywood, and he did not change other people's perception of actors in the entertainment industry because of his speech. I understand what he was trying to do, give credit and flowers to his mother and his family and everybody who supported him, but at the same time, you can't approach it that way, because the way you did it just kind of pushed other people to the side. And you're just like, I get this is your moment, but you have to recognize that you have so many other people that are trying to get through to their awards in this ceremony that already went. This is one of the longest Oscars in history. Okay, it was 3 hours and 45 minutes.
Right.
So, and part of that was his fault. And the whole thing with, I didn't even notice this during watching it, but the whole thing with his gum and not knowing what to do with it, and handing
tossing
it off,
his,
that was completely disrespectful, I feel like, to the ceremony as well, which is very unfortunate, because now with him winning 2 Oscars, he joins some of the greats in the entertainment industry, like Jack Nicholson, Tom Hanks, and a couple, Daniel Day-Lewis. Daniel Day-Lewis has 3, but a couple of other ones that I just feel like you're not representing what it means to be a distinguished actor the way these other actors did. So it's just very unfortunate.
5 minutes and 40 seconds. 5 minutes and 40 seconds, the longest Oscar acceptance speech in history. And that caused other winners to not be able to give even just normal length speeches because they were trying to push it with everybody after him, which is completely disrespectful, like you said. And keep in mind now, this is the same guy that just accosted and stuck his tongue down Halle Berry's throat the first time he won. Which was huge controversy. God bless her soul, though. This just shows what kind of a gem human being Halle Berry is. She caught him on the red carpet afterwards and just, like, kissed the shit out of him. Like, said, I had to get you back. Like, totally unexpectedly caught him and gave it back to him. Just as a joke, but I think it also a joke, but also saying, hey, I haven't forgotten and it wasn't cool. It wasn't okay. You know, kind of a thing. So this is, like you said, kind of a trend with him about being disrespectful, you know, towards the thing. And I think if you have multiple people, you should have a plan. You should you've worked on a film, meaning you've spent at least bare minimum 6-8 weeks together. More than likely 12, 16, 20 weeks together. And then if you're in the editing process and all that, even more. You should know each other well enough and respect each other well enough to say, let's make sure everybody gets a chance. And not doing that, I don't understand. You know, you talk about all the time about how you develop this familial type relationship when you work on a film, and then you're going to go and disrespect your family by not giving them a chance to speak? That makes no sense. We joke about it. We've actually even joked about it because I talk a lot and tend to get long-winded. Logan and I have joked about when we win our Oscar, he's talking first so that I don't go over the allotted time. But joking, but then also understanding that we do need to have a plan because we do talk. And so we understand that there's a time frame there. I just think it's something as simple and respectful as that. And I think it would go a long way with making these speech. Plus, when you're going on a tear and you know your film is the shit and you're winning the Golden Globes and you're winning the SAG Awards and you're winning the BAFTAs, you've got multiple opportunities to thank everybody you want to thank. Strategically pick your awards speeches and say, in this one, I'm going to thank these people. In this one, I'm going to thank these people. In the Oscars, I'm going to thank these people. You don't have to thank the same people over and over and over at every award show. And you know, just prioritize. I don't know, maybe I'm overthinking it, but it's unfair to the people that are standing there wanting to desperately thank their loved ones as well and not getting an opportunity. That just seems shitty to me.
Yes, completely agree, man. Completely agree. I rate this Oscars out of 5 because, you know, freaking Letterboxd made it best out of 5 now instead of best out of 10. I honestly rate this Oscars like a 1.5 out of 5. Like it had little highlights here or there, but for a 3-hour and 45-minute ceremony, like I said, it drug and it was not that entertaining, which is very unfortunate because we love award season. We love the Oscars, and this year they just kind of dropped the ball, man.
You just nailed it. It's the biggest night in Hollywood, and it wasn't entertaining.
Yeah.
Like, how do you have the biggest night in Hollywood, the mecca of entertainment, and have no entertainment? It was just boring. Let's get back to it. If we're gonna have a 3-hour plus show, give me it jam-packed with entertainment. Go back to the big productions. Go back to the big song and do all the huge things. If you're gonna do it, do it. I think that's what people are desperately missing. And that's why I think the viewership is kind of going down. Oh, your thought on what it means for indies. I think that my thought process on this is a lot of these films, other than Wicked, a lot of these films were independent production companies, Neon, A24, you know, these type things. But keep in mind that a lot of these started filming way back during COVID and then had to shut down and pick back up. Most of these films were shot during at least some point during the strikes. I think there's a reason we saw so many indie films, and let's be careful about what we call indie and not, but indie films nominated this year. It's because if you remember, during the shutdowns, they were given waivers. Indie films were given waivers, or if they shot somewhere else outside of the United States and weren't affiliated with a studio, they were allowed to shoot. I feel like what we saw this year was because it was the slim pickings, and these were the only films they had to nominate.
Yeah.
You know, not to take anything away from, we're an indie film production company, and I hope to God we get nominated for an Oscar one day. I know that we will, but I think there's a reason. I don't think this was some big, huge push by the Academy to recognize indie movie studios. I don't think this was some big, we're going to recognize art this year kind of a thing. I think the circumstances, like you said at the very top of the show, led to the nominees that we saw this year. That's just my opinion.
Yeah, completely agree. But it is funny though when people say indie film, you'd think less than $1 million. But
Right.
Anora was $6 million to make, and then Neon spent $18 million for their Oscar campaign.
Right.
Which is absolutely wild. But it's all entertaining. It's all fun. We are seeing the effects from the strike and the pandemic, so that is definitely what this award season was.
Yep.
So it's going to be very interesting to see what next year is going to look like, right? Because, we got Wicked Part 2, maybe even that Bruce Springsteen biopic.
Yes.
A couple different ones. Maybe another Dune. I don't know, with Messiah. So, yeah, it's going to be very freaking interesting. But, it's all good.
That's
man.
a good
It's all
way
good.
to wrap it up, because because there was a lot of the heat and a lot of the controversy, at least a lot of the shit I saw in my feeds everywhere, people railing on the fact that Dune and Wicked got ignored. Guys, these are continued stories. If you look back over the last 25 years of the Oscars, they will not award it to a film they know has another one coming. They wait. Yeah. Look at Lord of the Rings most recently. They wait until the story is finished and then recognize the film. So chill out. After Wicked comes out again next year, Chew will get nominated. Then the girls will get nominated again. It'll likely win. Just chill out. Same thing with Dune. You'll probably see a lot more nominations for Dune as well, because there's another one to finish the story. So just pay attention. Chill. Relax. It wasn't ignored. The Academy does this. It's just normal routine. Come on.
Exactly, man. Exactly. Well, now it is time for our guest segment, man. The first one of 2025. We got Devin Cecchetto coming on the show from The Way Home to talk about her experience on set, her musical career, because she is a singer, and so much more. Oh, this was a great first guest of 2025. She was so light, so bubbly, and so kind. So I'm very excited for everybody to hear this interview.
Absolutely. If you're a huge fan of the show, you definitely do not want to miss this. She gives us such insight into the show and the characters and how she was able to develop Evelyn and so much. But then, like you said, just outside of it, just her approach to life and how she approaches acting, how she's balancing the two careers at once and still trying to have a life outside of both careers. It's just so much valuable information, and she's just an absolute gem. And yeah, you guys are definitely going to love this interview.
For sure, man, for sure. Well, here she is.
Devin Cecchetto, welcome inside the Crazy Ant Farm. How are ya?
I'm great.
Oh my goodness, we are so excited to talk to you. We are huge fans of the show, and I love the direction season 3 is going in. We are definitely going to jump in the pond and talk all about all the good stuff. We cannot wait to do that. But you have so many other things we want to talk about too. How you got started, the singing, a film that you did that intrigued me immensely, and we're going to talk about that. Just so many. She's like, wait a minute.
Wonder which one that could be.
Okay.
But anyway, how we like to kick this whole thing off is for anybody that might not be familiar with your work yet or hasn't seen you or anything. We kind of just to give a little bit about how you got started in the industry. Was it something you knew you always wanted to do? Is it kind of fall into it? What was the deal?
I think that, I think it's something I always knew I wanted to do. When I was 6, I turned to my dad and I said that I wanted to be a famous opera singer. And my family is not in this world at all. And he looked at me like I had like a million heads and was like, what? And he was like, okay, whatever you want to do. But I think it was because my nonna we used to sing Ave Maria all the time. So I think it went back to like my Italian roots of being connected to singing and opera.
Yeah.
So I did, when I was younger, do a Canadian Children's Opera Company. And then I used to tour with an opera company whenever they need little kids. We used to do Carmen and all those kind of things. And then it slowly started to shift a bit more. I mean, I sang the national anthem a lot. And I think I always was like, oh man, like I would love to be a singer. But then music theater kind of got introduced to me, which then I was like, oh, I get to actually like sing as a different person than myself. And I found that way more easy. I don't know. And so I think I kind of that's kind of how I fell into the acting side of things, because I was like, it's way easier to take on another role and have the perspective of being somebody else as opposed to creating how I personally feel.
Right.
And then as I've kind of aged, I've now come to a point where I'm like, no, it actually would be really interesting to speak about how I personally feel in whatever capacity I can share that with. But yeah, so I did music theater for a really long time and have a degree in music theater. And then kind of like started performing my own stuff and releasing my own stuff, but was kind of doing more of like a pop girly thing.
Yeah.
And now I'm moving forward in terms of maybe doing a little bit more indie. I'm hopefully having a single come out soonish, which I actually really love, but I've spent a lot of time down in LA working with a lot of different people. And it's actually really hard to release your own stuff, like way harder than someone being like I'm so happy to step into other people's roles. Like, for example, The Way Home, like stepping into the character of Evelyn, I'm like, that makes me feel so freeing because it's someone else's story.
Right.
I haven't quite mastered my own yet. So that's where I'm at.
I love that too, because, you know, we're all just going through this thing we call life, trying to navigate where we're going to end up and all of our lessons that we've gathered and learned from throughout our whole experience. So since starting so young on stage, do you ever feel like with particular characters throughout your career, do you ever feel like you've always kept some of those characters with you throughout your life, and to where like in some certain instances you'd be like, oh, I bet she would do this, or I bet she would do this?
That is a really interesting question. I do know that a lot of music theater songs, like I'd usually play the more of like the leads or the ingenue, who's like the young, budding, always curious, looking for more kind of character. And I remember somebody that I was seeing at the time was like, why do you have like such a big spirit or like such a big energy? And I was like, I think it's because these like hero or heroine songs are like something like from Pretty Women. What's the one that she sings? Astonishing.
Right.
Or The Little Mermaid, like Part of Your World, or Newsies, Watch What Happens. Like it's all of these huge pieces where this small woman gets to have this turning point where they get to sing so like big about how they want to move forward in their life and how they want to create change. So I think that has like influenced my spirit almost in terms of constantly seeking more almost. Like I feel like I'm constantly going through the journey of like, what's it called? Coming of age, even though I should be of age, but like I just am not there yet. I don't know.
I get that.
But then I have had characters too that have stuck with me for a while in the wrong ways and needing to shed them because they kind of pulled out parts of myself that I wasn't quite happy about. And going through that journey is also tricky as well. So it's interesting. Yeah.
I love that because, you know, I think actors often talk so much about how they bring a little bit of themselves into the character, but not nearly the opposite of bringing the character into them. And maybe I feel like a lot for method actors who get stuck, right? And it does take you down a bad rabbit hole of, wait a minute, I got to let this go when they yell cut and I go home. I got to let this person go. Because I think it can be potentially dangerous if you're too wrapped up in your character. But I like what you said about how it seems to me like just doing the research on you and watching a lot of your past stuff and everything, you're really kind of finding that groove where you're coming into who you are as a person and feeling more comfortable sharing who you are as a person, right? And I think that plays so much into your shift in the music and how you approach characters, because now you do feel comfortable in your own skin, right? And so it does become less about I get to escape and be this person, but now I can be me and play this person, right?
Yes, I would say that that's actually something that definitely developed over the last, I'd say like year and a half, but definitely for a little bit when I was younger, it was very much an escape. Not so much that it wasn't that I didn't know, but I think it was that. It's like I didn't know really who I was or what I needed to be. I still was very much discovering a lot of things, and also like not to bring in zodiac signs and stuff like that, but I'm a Gemini, which is known as being two-faced. And so I've got a lot of different personalities. And anybody who's been with me or knows me is like, oh my God, Kay is this personality number 6. And I'm like, I'm sorry. And so, but also I have researched that there's a lot of very successful actors that are Geminis as well. And it's because I am constantly moving through different characters inside of me, but I have been able to ground myself a little bit more now and the understanding of like who I am, who personality number 2 is, when she's coming out, why she's coming out. You know what I mean? Like the psychological journey has been.
I love that you brand them personality number 2. Like, that's fantastic.
But are you a May or a June Gemini? That's the question.
I'm a June Gemini.
I see. So you're a little bit more crazy. I'm a May Gemini, so I'm a little bit less tamed down.
I know. I saw you go like this, and I was like, okay, we have another Gemini in the room.
Oh,
then.
for sure, for sure. I wear that proudly. That is for sure. So I mean, you have a lot on your plate, obviously, with the success of Way Home right now, and trying to still stay on top of your musical career and trying to balance just everyday life, going to auditions and, being friendly with friends, trying to have a relationship, all of these different things. How do you try to balance everything? Because mental health is a big thing for our podcast and us as individuals. So how do you balance being an actor and being a singer? And sometimes do you feel like one takes away from the other, or do you feel like they inspire each other?
I think that they very much inspire each other. I'd say that the one single that I do want to come out with soon, the name of it is called Ships in the Night. And I think it was actually very much inspired from Evelyn's story. It was something that I knew on a one-off, I wanted to work with this producer, and he said, I'm leaving to go down to LA, but if you can meet tonight at 5 p.m., then we can maybe put something together. And so that morning I woke up and I thought about a poem, and that's when Ships in the Night was kind of inspired. And so when we made it, I was like, oh shoot, this is actually what needs to happen. Like, this is the move, Yeah. And I think that when I was like a little while back, I did actually become very overwhelmed with it all. And I did have to take some time away from everything just because I wasn't sure how to put everything together. And I had so many big ideas, and I'm huge for just like wanting to pursue them all, but then you kind of just get burnt out.
Yes.
Right.
I definitely now have more of an ebb and flow, and becoming a little bit more aware of like life is actually quite long, and you have a lot of time, and you can accomplish everything that you want to accomplish. And so you don't need, it's like that one quote in Vienna by Billy Joel, but it's like, slow down, you're doing fine.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like, Vienna waits for you. And I think like, you're so, what is it? Slow down, you crazy child. You're so ambitious for a juvenile.
Exactly.
Like, you're so smart. Why are you still so afraid? And I feel like that's kind of where I'm at, where I'm like, yeah, like I have lots of time, and the things also, like, everything happens for a reason. So your life is going to develop and move the way that it's supposed to. So I very much just give it up to the world now. Like, I'm literally just like, whatever. Because also like The Way Home, I didn't even know about it until a week before. I remember like I had sent in the callback, and then I started following Sadie, and I saw that she posted the first day on set of season 3. And I remember I saw it and went, oh, I didn't get it because I didn't hear anything. So I went to go get my hair done. And I have foils in my hair being like, all right, new era, that's fine. And then my agent texted me and she's like, you got The Way Home. And I was like, what?
Wait,
oh my God.
what?
And they're like, yeah, you need to be on set in 3 days. And I was like, oh God. Like, so then you're like, oh, and at that time, I think I was definitely going in a different direction, like 100%. And then I was like, okay, I got to reel that in, because that's not what's important. That's not what I need to focus on anymore. This is what's important right now, you know?
Right.
So it's about being like intuitive enough to know where you need to focus your energy, and like when is the time to go and have a rest, and when do you need to see your friends because they heal you and you love them and your family. Like, it's very like one thing always leads to the next, you know?
So much to unpack there, because we are very much along that line of the way of thinking as well, and how we do it, right? Everything that you said, everything happens for a reason. We are firm believers in that. I'm also a firm believer in, if you're headed down the wrong way, the universe picks you up and puts you back. It's like, no, we've got a plan for you, and you're supposed to be over here. And every time you try to go over here, I'm going to put you back over here, right? And another thing I think that's so important, and I love that you listened to yourself. You were intuitive enough to know, I need to take a break and figure this because you do have a long time, and life is not linear. It's not a straight line. It's not, I'm going to do this, and this. Sometimes it's, oops, I'm going to plan over here, but then this happens and I've got to go over there. And that's okay.
It's just like The Way Home. Like
exactly.
I do believe that time is almost like this. It's like time traveling.
Without doubt.
I don't know if I'm whatever. I just found out from one of our writers that she actually wrote the beginning of The Way Home 10 years ago.
Oh, wow.
And she went to pitch it and somebody heard it and they said, this makes no sense. No. And she said, like, she was like, I did a horrible job at pitching it. I don't think I really knew what it was.
Right.
But then I think someone came back to her and was like, wait, what we need to show, they're looking for a show that's like, This Is Us. And she was like, well, there's something that I wrote like 10 years ago, maybe this. And then now it's this beautiful piece. So if we think about it, it's almost like this idea conspired 10 years ago, was left in a time capsule, and now it's brought to life. And it's something that obviously like the human collective needs right now. And that's the way things are, right? Like,
oh, absolutely.
I think artists you're listening to what the collective needs to hear, you know?
I have a couple of quick questions for you, and I'm sure Logan does too, but about your music and your shift in away from the pop and more into the indie and one, do you write your own lyrics? I'm assuming you write your own lyrics. And okay, I love that. And then I can't escape, and maybe this is because of the Evie vision, the way you look in the 70s and just your vibe, you're very, now having this conversation and your very spiritual vibe and the way you approach things, but you scream Stevie Nicks to me. And then I saw your TikTok and you're playing a bunch of Fleetwood Mac music and I'm like, yes, if they ever do a biopic about young Stevie Nicks, it should be you. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying, because you scream that. And I love that you're kind of channeling and going in a direction that's a bit more indie and a more different away from, because I think you're probably going to excel there. You just have that whole look and vibe going. And yeah, I think you're going to slay, honestly.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
The pop stuff, like, it was more of just, I was like, you know what, if I can, then I might, because also like, doing music theater, it's very, I think that I always think about like a big performance, and I think about like I went through dancing too and stuff like that. And so I was like, with pop, you get to dance. So that was what I had in my mind to begin with. But I'm like, no, I guess like with indie stuff, you get to dance too, and it's way more grounded and it's more real. So I'm hoping that I can tap into something, but it's scary, guys. It's scary. I don't want to, you know.
And it should be. It should be scary.
Yeah, it is all very scary. And I mean, speaking of scary, first day on set, I'm sure that was absolutely terrifying because, you know, you're coming into season 3 of The Way Home, and this is already established, well-oiled machine. Everybody's been around for a while. Of course, you've had people pop in and out. But what was your first initial feelings when walking to your first day on set?
Definitely I was nervous, but I honestly, the moment I stepped on set, Ago, who is the first AD, just had this big smile and was like, welcome to The Way Home. That's awesome. All of a sudden, I just felt at home. Like, I don't know how to say it any other way. And I do remember, I think, texting my mom being like, oh man, like, this is a really good set. This is going to be a really great experience. Because I have had other experiences where, I don't know. It didn't feel good, but but it's a job, so you have to do it.
Right.
So I think, and honestly, like, it kind of, doing a job that doesn't feel great, but being forced to do it really does stop you from that track. Like, then you're like, I don't think I want to act anymore. Like, if this is what it feels like, then I don't want that. So I think stepping into this, I was a little bit worried, but it was amazing. And I think that, like, the moment I met Sadie, she just, she felt familiar, and she does such a good job at guiding everybody, because she's been the lead of the show for the last, now 3 seasons.
Right.
In her life, she's been on the show since she was like 20, I think. So it's like a part of her heart and her soul, and so for her to kind of just, it felt like a big warm hug. So I really wasn't too nervous, although I was very nervous because Evelyn talks a lot. Obviously, so do I. But being able to like memorize somebody else who talks and trying to figure out their talking pattern, like I was like, and like if you notice, like it's always Evelyn talking and Sadie just like Alice just looking at her.
Yeah. And like, some of Alice's looks at her crack me up. It's like, wait, what are you saying? But I first of all, we were literally just having a conversation off camera before we started recording this about how you know, when people first approach it, and even when I describe it to people at first, it's like, oh no, it's really cool. It's time travel and it's kind of supernatural, maybe even a little witchcraft and everything. But at its core, at its sole crux of the show, it's family. It's about a family and family relationships and family dynamic. And so to have it be described by you as that on set, that's why I think it translates so well to the audience. There's a connectability there because that is a family portraying this family on camera. And you feel like, at least I do, and people I know that watch it, when I'm watching it, I feel as though I'm a part of the family. I'm sitting around Dell's table and I need to know what's going on, right? And the other thing for you that I think was just because, like you said, and Logan, I'm glad you brought it up because sometimes walking into a well-oiled machine that's been there for 3, 4, 5 years or whatever, you're kind of like, oh, now I got to figure out how I fit into this. But with Evelyn, we saw maybe briefly once when she's threatened to, you know, charge Elliot and Kat, right? And it was brief. So you get to create Evelyn, unlike the other characters who had to follow along because we had already seen the adult versions of them and a lot of the adult versions of them. And we're like, oh, okay, we know who these people are. But Evelyn, we saw for a brief second. So we really don't know who Evelyn really was as an adult. So you got to play with that a little bit. And I'm thinking, how awesome is that? Because if we do see adult Evelyn again prior to, well, spoilers for anybody, but her death, the actress will have to mimic you, which is real, right? Talk about that and what kind of process that was.
Cool. Honestly, I would say that what also kind of helped too is that because Evelyn was talked about and the Goodwins are talked about so much, then I didn't feel so much like a stranger. It's very strange.
Yeah.
Because her legacy already exists and because also like the fans are following the show, it wasn't as like a strange to join. If anything, everybody was like, thank God we found somebody that was exactly what needed to be Evelyn. And so it was like, people just kind of, you know, took me in and I was like, okay, cool. But to your point, yeah, I didn't go off of really anything. Besides like probably like a version of myself that's just like a little bit lighter and thinking about what I would be like if I was in the 70s, and being able to really, really play around. And I did say, like, I remember when we sat down the first time I met Julie and Jordan, we went out to lunch before. We had even met on set and they were like, oh my God, I have been freaking out because I've just been watching a whole bunch of interviews of Andie MacDowell and Jefferson and I need to like get down and I'm just so scared. And I remember sitting there being like, thank God I don't have to like copy anybody because that would be terrifying. It would be terrifying to have to like mimic Andie MacDowell, who is such a big name. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I'm like, thank God, you know?
You guys nail it though. They are terrifying how, literally eerie how good they are at mimicking them. Like like you said with Andie, those mannerisms and those little things that she does with her eyes and everything. So to watch Julia do it, it's like,
I have like goosebumps. Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah.
It's just, but the thing I like, and I'm curious on your take on this one, Logan, is the Goodwins, like you said, establish history, right? But they're not, people don't like them, right? Because they've really kind of established that the Goodwins are the bad guys, right? Nah, the Augustines have some issues, but the Goodwins are the bad guys. And nobody likes Cyrus. Everybody. But then here comes young Evelyn, and she's adorable. You're rooting for her, right? It seems like every episode she's getting her heart crushed, and she's just this free spirit that wants to love and be loved. And now you know the way you play her. You go, oh, well, that's why she's so damn bitter as an adult, and what kind of goes down because she's being trampled on.
She gets knocked down, and she gets back up again. But then she gets knocked down. Like it's even moving in through episode 9. Like she continuously goes, okay, I'm at the bottom of the hill. I'm going to work back up to the top of the hill. I'm going to try again and everything's going to be okay. And she's got such a like strong, motivated spirit. But I think even we're all wondering too, and we'll see if we have another season. They kind of talk about a little bit like if there is, continuing to understand why or how Evelyn completely does end up the way that she ends up. Which is pretty crazy. The thing is that I didn't watch The Way Home before I did my first interview. I just read it and was like, oh, it takes place in the 70s. Cool. This is how I'd play her.
Right.
And so then when I was then watching the show after I got a call back, and then later on, once I actually was on set, I was like, oh shoot, no one likes the Goodwins.
Yeah.
But that's okay, because even inside of Evelyn, like when she's there at the Ouija board and she goes to
Yes.
Colton, like, oh, maybe we can find something out about our founding fathers. Like, she has such a curiosity in understanding what her family lineage is, which is really beautiful.
Yeah.
And so it is kind of sad that her family lineage is like, they're mean people. So that's unfortunate. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it really is. It always sucks. You know, that's always the terrifying thing to do, like Ancestry or anything like that. You go back and realize your people suck. Like, you know, you never want that. You never want that. But I'm a big fashion person, and I love period pieces. So I was obviously curious, what was that like, trying to, you know, figure out and work with the costume designer to try to figure out what the 70s version of you was going to look like? And then were there any pieces of articles of clothing that you would possibly might have wanted to take home?
Yeah. I do remember the very first day when I went in, they already had like a mood board and everything set up. It was very
Nice.
Spanx. And then we would try on a whole bunch of articles of clothing. Our costume people have been around forever. So I think I tried on something that like Uma Thurman wore at one point.
Oh, cool.
But
Wow.
she's a big Amazon woman, whereas like I'm only like 5'3". So they're like, hey, let's not fit. And I was like, damn it, I love this. Anyways, but being able to try on all the clothes and stuff like that was really fun. And then kind of having my little 2 cents of being like, I like this more than the other thing. Which is
Right, exactly.
new. But I loved it. Like if I could, then I would totally live in the 70s. But my biggest thing is that I'm not huge for wearing skirts, but Evelyn loves to wear her skirts. And
Right.
so at the beginning I was like, oh, is there a way that we can do like a pant thing or stuff like that? And they're like, no, I think that you'll really enjoy the skirts. And now watching it, like, I love the fact that she's so flowy, and that, you know, when she walks, her skirts follow her. I think there's a couple scenes where I'm wearing pants, but the skirt idea was like beautiful.
Yeah.
The one article of clothing that I wish that I kept would be the white dress that you get introduced with her the very first time.
Yeah.
Not the one I heard the pond, but the one where, I don't know, it's got like all those layers and it's very embroidered and stuff. Like it's gorgeous. It really gives fairy vibes. But I was not able to keep anything.
Yeah, when they're at the bonfire, right? You're talking about when they're at the bonfire when we yeah, that's a great piece. Yeah, nobody wants that one at the pond because that's the bad. Man, what a brutal scene that was. Alice was, I posted it on social media, but Alice was just savage. Like that, there's a way to say it, and that wasn't it. Like,
well, I know, but also like, could you imagine? Like, honestly, even when I saw that shot too, I'm like, oh my God, it looks like I'm dead. And then for her, I remember when me and Sadie talked about that scene too. We were like, oh my God, she's so dramatic. This is crazy. And for me to be down in the pond and then coming up and be like, you know what I mean? Like, no, I'm like, you know, she's just getting into a role, which is very silly and insane. But I do understand Alice's reaction. Like, she loves Evelyn, and obviously everybody knows that's not where Evelyn dies. So, you know, but I get it. But honestly, I think when I watched that scene again, I was like, that's pretty crazy for Sadie to talk to me like that.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah. When she's just hard. Like, he is never going to love you the way you want him to. Like, move on. But when you think about it, though, it's such great writing and storytelling, because think about the dilemma that Alice must be in. Because, like you said, she loves Evelyn. She's realizing now that everything she's ever heard about Evelyn is not true. That she was this beautiful spirit and this beautiful soul and just was living life. And she really likes her. But she also knows that Dell is the one. So how do you confront that? You've got that, oh my gosh, I'm rooting for you, but I can't root for you because I know what's supposed to happen kind of a thing. That's got to be really tough in Alice's situation. So the way Sadie approached that, I thought that was really good. A couple of questions, though, and I'm sure, because there's so many fan theories out there. And I don't know if you have your own fan theory, because, I think I saw something about how you guys don't know until you see the script, too. You're kind of following along the same way. But because Evelyn was laid down in the pond, it just kind of not even worried about being tugged under to somewhere else kind of a thing. We know that she's at least aware of, and that she believes in, the stories of the pond, that it's a realistic possibility. And even though Colton is totally trying to dodge that, even though he's been full of shady shit, but she's still like, no, you have to believe it's probably true. I personally don't think, though, that Evie has ever time traveled. I think that she believes that it's possible, and that, but unlike Colton, who's lied about it, I don't think Evie's actually ever done it yet.
This is the thing. Yet we don't know, because also the writers, like, whenever I talk to them, I'm like, what's gonna happen? And they sit there and they come up with all these theories, right? So they don't even know yet, really, because they haven't had the time to sit down, and it can go any way, which is really cool. But I do know that there was a point when me and Jordan would talk to each other as we'd get each episode, and we're like, she's a time traveler. She must be a time traveler.
Right.
Even that one scene where she like walks to the front and she's saying like 65, still alive, wish they died. And it's like, are you going to jump in? And she's like, no, I would never do it without you. And I'm like, okay, like, are they hinting at something there? Or is it just because Evelyn just believes in magic and she listened to Fern?
Right.
And so she has that kind of like extraterrestrial feeling about it. Maybe like she might just be like a little bit witchy and have a little bit of intuition. But is she a time traveler? I don't know.
But you bring up a good point, because they do lay down plot lines like that. Like the adult appearance of Evelyn when she is threatening the charges, right? I went back and I watched that scene, and now it hits so much more, because when Dell says, don't do it for me, do it for Colton. It didn't even register when she said, do it for Colton, the first time you watch that scene. And then when Evelyn responds, well, now you owe me one, as if you didn't already. Well, that's clearly a reference that you took her man. And so, like, that was clearly intentional, clearly laid out that they knew something like that was. So you might be right about how that might have been a hint when she's singing that little song about maybe. So I don't know.
I know.
Do you want her to be a time traveler?
Oh my God, yes. I would love for her to be a time traveler. I'm actually really sad that, like, as things kept progressing, I was like, what the heck, man? But I'm excited that at least I got to go into the pond.
Yes.
And I got my little like pond plunger award, which was so cute.
Yes.
We got given those at the wrap party, which was really nice. Because honestly, the pond is really cold, so it's worth the award. But it would be really cool to travel. So I don't know. There's so much more, like, if there is another season, there is so much more for them to discover and move through. So we'll see, you know?
Yes, most definitely. Most definitely. Well, this has been an amazing conversation, and we normally like to wrap these conversations up with a popcorn questions. It's just 5 little questions that gets the audience able to get to know you a little bit more, get to know your personality, even though your personality is so bubbly and it's so light and fresh to the world of hatred and burning down and all the things. So we need more people like you, but I think we're going to have fun with these questions. I think you're going to have a lot of good answers. The first one being, what do you think in your first season of The Way Home, what do you think was the funniest moment or the most memorable moment on set?
Let me think here. Damn, there's so much. Okay, so I always think like the Ouija board was a lot of fun, and we were actually very terrified, and we got to have all 4 of us. So there's the scene where Delilah gets introduced at the very beginning at the beach.
Yeah.
That's always super memorable, because that is when we very much just were getting to know each other and getting to know each other's characters and stuff like that. So that's extremely memorable. But I think that the Ouija board was just really fun and really funny, because it's first of all, people are like, oh my God, what if we actually summon a ghost? Like, this is really terrifying. Like, we have to do our research. Like, we don't want this thing to come home with us.
Yeah.
But then later on, like, kind of just having, someone had to literally speak and be like, okay, wind gusts. And we're all like, what? And so like doing that over and over and over again was just really funny, because now we're just really, really make-believing.
Right. Literally.
Right there make-believing that we're all these characters in the 70s, and now there's a ghost in our presence, So that was really fun.
Absolutely. Did it ever move on its own at least once at all? Come on, tell us. No. You're not going to share, huh? He's like, no, I ain't bringing it home. We just talked about that at the beginning about not bringing work home, so we don't want to do that one.
No.
Okay, I'm interested in this one because you've kind of hinted at a bunch of different things. But if you could actually live inside any television show or movie, which one would it be and why?
Oh my goodness. What? Any television show or movie?
Yeah.
Okay, well, right now I am like on the track of watching the newest season of The White Lotus.
Okay,
Oh,
yeah,
nice.
yeah.
But I know that never turns out good. So I'm
Never.
like, I don't know if I want to be inside of the world of White Lotus, because it's really twisted. Something else that I always think about though when people talk about The Way Home and time travel is Doctor Who, and I know that's so funny, but I was a huge Doctor Who fan when I was little. I haven't watched it in a really long time, but I think that would be a really cool show to live in real life and be like Doctor Who's companion.
Oh yeah.
And see the dialect and like go to different space and like different, you know what I mean, like different universes and different planets. Like
Yeah.
that would be a cool show to be in. It's infinite and endless, you know.
I love
And
that.
meeting aliens would be so cool. I don't know.
Yeah. I love that someone your age even references Doctor Who, which is fantastic. And let's be honest about it. Every time you pass a phone booth, you're thinking about it, right? There's only one of two things you think about: Superman or Doctor Who. It's like, it's so iconic. I love that. I love that answer.
That's funny. If there could be anyone that you could work with, who would it be?
Oh no.
Living or dead, just anyone.
Living or dead. I know you're a big Barbra Streisand fan, so I wouldn't have been surprised if it was going to be her, but you know.
That's true. I love Barbra Streisand. Now, I don't know. I think I'd have to, who would I really love to work with? I feel like I just like people just keep on like stepping into my life. Like even getting to meet Annie McDowell and chatting with her was really cool.
Oh,
this is a weird one, and I don't know why I want to say this. This is so, but like I have been saying that I really want to meet Miley Cyrus. I know that that's so
nice,
strange, but that's been something. I don't know why Miley Cyrus, but I had like a weird like when I was younger, we can't stop and all that kind of stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I think, and also like watching her grow up through Hannah Montana. And I don't know, I never really like necessarily idolized her, but I think that Miley Cyrus as a person is really cool. And it'd be cool to chat with her.
Oh yeah, especially with who she is now and the growth that she's overcome. And I would love to see her, what she would be like as an actor now.
Yeah.
You know, what would her roles be? You know, I think that'd be so curious.
Because she's so authentic, right? I mean, you've seen her, like you said, you saw her grow up through Hannah Montana, but you saw, the whole world saw everything that poor girl went through. So to come out of it on the other side and be so real and authentic about it, of who she is, right? Wow. I think you guys.
Yeah, that's kind of cool. Also, another one, Lady Gaga would be really cool. I think these are people more that I would like love to meet, like sit down and just chat with.
For sure.
Yeah.
But I don't know. That's a great question though. I'm gonna have to think about that because I also feel like manifestation's huge. So now I'm like, who would I want to like actually work with acting wise? So I'm gonna think on that one. That's a good one.
Yeah. Well, it's just a reason to have you back on.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay, so now we're gonna do the little Barbara Walters moment and get deep. If you could go back and tell your 10-year-old self something, what would it be? What would you tell little 10-year-old Devin?
Oh no. I think I would just tell her to like keep being herself. Like I think like I lost my childhood spirit for a little bit there, and finding the childhood spirit again now is, I think, why I like feel like I'm a lot lighter and stuff. So if anything, like I would say thank you to 10-year-old Devin because she has always been the core of who I am, and being able to tap into her and her like persistence and her joy and her clarity. Like I think that me at 10 very much was very clear of like, I love to do this thing and I'm going to keep on wanting to do it for the rest of my life. And then as you get older, then you get lost in life, really.
Yeah.
So if anything, I'd say thank you, and I'd say keep going, really.
And sometimes, you know, that little 10-year-old inner child is still a part of you. Sometimes you really do need to revisit the inner child to be an adult, right? I love that. I love that you said that. That's beautiful.
Yes, it really is. It really is. I'm crying over here. You're making me.
She was supposed to cry, man, not you. Come on.
Overwhelmed with emotions. I know. I'm sorry.
What's in your cup, bro? Come on.
Yeah, exactly. But we are here, the fifth and final question, and maybe the most question of the entire interview. Probably not, but that's okay.
Oh, there's Peanut.
Are you happy with your career so far?
So far, yes. I think so. I think it can only keep on moving in different directions. And in the last week, I've had some really cool auditions that I love a lot. But everything is crossing your fingers. And I think it's about never losing faith or hope. So being like, oh my God, this would be so amazing if I booked this, and then not hearing back, but then being like, don't worry, there's another one around the corner. So I think it's all about perspective. And I think right now my perspective is really good. And so I'm happy in that frame, you know? So
Oh,
that's right.
Nice.
Okay,
That's awesome.
Just you have been an absolute gem to talk to, by the way. I just
Yes.
your personality, your approach to life, how centered you are, and just everything, the way you're living, you're doing it right, and we love to talk to people like that. You just absolute gem. I got to tell you, I feel pretty confident. Not that I have any inside sources or any knowledge whatsoever, but I feel pretty confident season 4 is probably going to happen. It seems to have a pretty good fan base. It's doing pretty well. I
They'd
think
be crazy if they didn't renew it. They would be
I
crazy.
would
So,
agree. And my hope is that maybe we're a little bit later in the 70s or maybe even a little early 80s, and can Evelyn sing? We
that
haven't
would be-
seen Evelyn sing, and you can
That
sing.
would be so sad.
I mean,
That
you
would be
said
sick.
you wanted to do both, right? Get a role where you could actually do both. And I
Yeah.
mean, this show screams for that. I'm just saying.
does.
Maybe
It
that's
does.
how
We
she
can cross our
processes
fingers.
losing Colton. She puts her own stuff into music and moves forward or whatever. Just saying. Just saying.
Maybe. Yeah, it can really go every way. I'm really excited to see what happens. But yeah, they would be crazy if they don't renew.
Oh,
That is
agreed.
100%.
Agreed.
And it would be cool because that would be such a big dream come true for me, is like doing something like singing for TV shows.
Oh
like,
my
so
gosh, it would be amazing. I think, and then just huge continued success. I hope that the Ships of the Night song goes every which way you want it to go. And when you get it out there, we will promote the hell out of it.
Thank you.
Yeah, no, it's all about supporting each other. That's how we all make the dream work and do what we do. So it's all about getting it out there and helping people do it.
I would just say I love that this is called Crazy Ant. Like, it's a Crazy Ant podcast. It's so fun, and I love your shirt. Like, the shirt is amazing, and I hope that you give them away. Like, do you sell them?
Oh, yeah, we have
we will
merch.
totally send you one. We will hook you up. We've got all kinds of merch,
I
cups,
want one.
everything. So yeah,
Cups,
yeah.
shirts, all
Whatever
the
you
things.
want. If you want one
All
with
the
bonk
things.
on it,
So cool.
we've got all kinds of stuff. We will definitely make that happen for you. Yeah, that would be awesome. We'd love to see you wearing one.
Yeah.
But
And you know, it's all about social media. So where can people follow you as well?
Oh, I'm pretty much just Devin Cecchetto everywhere. Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. The TikToks have been fun recently. I've been like doing updates of like my outfits for I kind of forgot to do it, and then I only started doing it near the end.
yeah,
Right.
But I've been keeping like updated on TikTok, which is cute with the way home.
yeah, no,
There you go.
the TikTok videos are great. Yeah, it just, well, listen, again, thank you so much for coming on. We have no doubt the listeners are going to love this, and you're just amazing, and continued success in whatever you do, and fingers crossed. We're all hoping season 4
Aw.
and we get more
Thanks,
of Evelyn.
guys.
You're very
Season
welcome.
4.
Woo. Thank
Take
you so
care.
much. We hope you have a great rest of your day, and we'll be talking to you soon.
Thanks, guys.
Man, talk about a great guest for the first one back in 2025. Man, that was a great conversation.
Yeah, she's just a lot of fun. I just, doing our research and looking back at some of her old stuff and all that, just, you can see the progression. She's just like finding herself and just totally into her vibe now, and like, this is who I am. This is the direction I'm heading, and I love that, man. Anytime, people y'all's age can figure it out and just kind of roll with it and go, I love that. And she clearly is on a path that's going to take her a lot of places.
Yes, completely agree. Completely agree. Thank you again, Devin, for coming on the show. All right, man. Now it is time for the top 5 segment. And this week we apologize because we were very behind the game. Dustin and I are both recovering. I'm sure you can tell by our voices from a sinus infection, illness, viral
Yes.
infection, whatever the hell it is. So we didn't get to put it out on social media about our top 5 and have you guys help. But we'll get back to that next week.
Yes.
But this week's top 5 is top 5 television shows that should be turned into movies, and we have very different lists, and I think it's going to be a lot of fun. And I've got a very interesting concept for my fifth and first one, and I don't even know how they would do it, but I think it'd be interesting. What about yours? Was it hard to choose yours?
No, actually, I ran through mine pretty quick, and I think that I have. If they want help writing these movies, I'm all in. I've got ideas for every one of them on my list about what
There
I
you
would,
go.
what I would do with it. So call me, just let me know. But if you don't know how to approach it, I do. Just come on, give us a call. But yeah, man, I'm excited for this one. I think this will be fun.
For sure, man, for sure. Well, number 5 for me, television show turned into a movie, but this is a reality television show, so I don't even know how they would do it. I would love to see behind the scenes of Survivor. I think Survivor would be a very interesting original screenplay where and it's set as an actual film where a character goes into a television show living on an island and the behind the scenes of how it works and just trying to adapt and navigate the gameplay of Survivor and trying to navigate the whole dynamic between social play and strength and trying to find idols and all of these different things. Maybe there's a love interest because, we've had 48 seasons of Survivor. So there's so many different storylines that you could go with and try to combine. But it would be kind of interesting. But then, you could turn it into, a horror movie because what if, you go to play Survivor, this well-known game that's been on for 48 seasons, and then you realize this island in Fiji is, haunted, or there's anacondas, or all of these different things. So I think it'd be a very interesting premise, and I think Paramount, they do all sorts of different kind of films, so I think they would be the right studio to try to navigate this particular concept. It would be interesting.
I love that you brought that up towards the end, because what I was going to say to you as soon as I saw that on your list is my approach for that would be like a Blair Witch Project type of thing. Like one of those real person who's got a camera and they're documenting all the behind the scenes stuff that you don't see on TV, and you're seeing all the shit going down, and maybe there is something going on behind the scenes. Maybe one of the contestants wasn't vetted and they're a fucking serial killer or something, but something like that. But I feel like a handheld, Blair Witch type approach to it would be badass. People running through the fucking, jungle trying to get out of there because somebody's chasing them, They go on a boat and they think they're going to the place to do a challenge, and the guy just takes them somewhere and hold it. I mean, there's so many opportunities there to do it. Would be badass, We find out that Jeff is actually some crazy psycho killer, He's got, oh my gosh.
Right, he's like a game master. Who's orchestrating everything. Yeah. Kind of like the Menu that came out a couple years ago with Anya Taylor-Joy and Ralph Fiennes, who was just nominated for an Oscar. That would be very freaking interesting. But
twice.
Number 5 for me, Survivor. Let's try to make this happen. Man. I think it'd be a crazy concept.
Just like I said, just hit us up. We've already got an idea for it. We're good.
Yeah.
My number 5, I just watched this, and it was a limited series, 6 episodes. And I thought, damn, with this cast, this would be an epic film. Political thrillers seem to do really well at the box office. They have a long stay at the box office. And, for whatever reason, audiences always seem to gravitate to them. And I'm talking about Zero Day. And it's so relevant right now. This is about where somebody attacks the grid and it goes down. They take it out. And they take it out for just 1 minute. And I'm talking everything. All shit. Planes came out of the sky. Cars were crashing. Trains were derailing. People were falling out of buildings because everything went down for 1 minute. And it was like the biggest casualties since 9/11, according to the show, with deaths caused by just 1 minute of the grid going down. So they bring in a former president to head up the Zero Day Commission to try to find out who was behind it. Well, America wants to blame Russia. Oh, it's Russia, blah, blah, blah. Right? But the real, and spoilers for anybody who hasn't seen it, and I'm sorry, but even when I tell you, you should still go watch it because it's brilliant for De Niro alone. The gist behind it is because of the way the country is fractured right now, and nobody's getting anything done, and this side hates this side, and this person hates this person, and blah, 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 blah. Some members of Congress came up with an idea of taking the grid down, causing this massive casualty to make the country unite against a common enemy and bring back a united front again, to where both sides started working together again in common valor towards a goal. They didn't expect all those people to die. They didn't expect all the shit to go down that went down. And they never expected for anybody to find out that the actual U.S. themselves were behind the attack on the U.S. I just think it's a really brilliant idea. And sadly, it wouldn't be anything that I would be surprised about as if somebody in our own government were to attack the country. There's already conspiracy theories thinking that 9/11 was caused by us, that we were actually behind it, right? So why wouldn't this be a thing? I just thought it was brilliantly done, and it plays so well into what's going on in society today and what people are terrified about. All these planes coming out of the sky all of a sudden and all these type things about, think about what it would be like if the grid went down. I know people that would die right away because they wouldn't know how to take care of themselves. They just wouldn't know what to do. So I love this. And the cast was phenomenal. Robert De Niro. It's one of my most favorite things I've ever seen him in. And we're talking about Robert De Niro. I mean, and a lot of people were like, oh, he's going to do television. But this was literally a small film. So I would like to see it on the big screen. Expand it, do whatever you got to do. Continue the story. They set it up for a continuation. Well, make it a film. My number 5, 0 Day.
Fantastic pick, man. Fantastic pick. Very timely, too.
Oh,
Very
yeah.
timely.
Yeah.
Number 4 for me goes to Game of Thrones. I'm sure, this would be like a freaking Harry Potter franchise type of thing where you would have to do multiple freaking films. And no wonder they're having so many spinoffs because George R.R. Martin has this big open idea of all of these different concepts that was Westeros. But I think Game of Thrones, it would be very timely, I guess you could say, during any time, because I feel like these are always going to be popular. This like Renaissance concept is always going to be popular for audiences worldwide because I feel like it reaches international and it reaches domestic in a way that, you always wonder what the past was like, way before technology, way before, power of your building, all of these different things. What was it like having to hunt your food, having to catch your food, having to provide for your family, be a farmer, all of these different concepts. And, by the way, there's fucking dragons flying in the sky. So that's always an interesting concept too. So I definitely feel like this world of fantasy will never die out. I think this is an ever-evolving idea that could be plopped in, 50, 100 years down the line when movies are still playing at your local theaters. I put Game of Thrones on here, obviously, because I'm a huge fan of the original series, huge fan of House of the Dragon. But I also truly believe that the Renaissance and this type of concept will never become unpopular.
Right.
So I definitely feel like it will live on for years past us being here. That's for sure. Number 4 for me, Game of Thrones.
Without doubt, all in. I'd love to see a House of the Dragon movie, dude. That'd be badass. Like I really do think that would kick ass. I'm right there with you. I think any of these type movies. It's why Dungeons and Dragons did well. It's why Lord of the Rings did well. It's like the people are engulfed in the idea of that world. And so, regardless of which author it's coming from, they're in. Mm-hmm. So, I'm right there with you. My number 4, it's been done, but it hasn't been done correctly. And now they could do it correctly. I would like to take you, have the studio take Alan Richardson and make a proper Reacher movie. Tom Cruise, nope, not Reacher. If you watch the series, it's brilliant. It is the single greatest adaptation brought to life from the book to the screen. Alan Richardson understands the character. He becomes the character. He is passionate about making sure he gets the character right. The storytelling from the way they're picking from the books and telling these different stories, it's absolutely brilliant. And I think that this series has earned an opportunity to be up on the big screen and to find a whole new audience at the theaters. It's absolutely incredible. I think that Alan Richardson is capable of being a multi-franchise guy, because I also think I would love to see him as Batman in the DCU, the thick Batman. He came out recently, said you don't even have to pay him for that. He would do it for free. So that's how passionate he is, though. And if you watch Reacher, he just gets it. And there's so many different books and so many different storylines that they could put back up on the screen the right way. So I'm hoping that that happens. I don't want the show to go anywhere, but I would like to see it on the big screen as well. I just think there's so much more, and I feel like Richardson has earned that opportunity. Everybody involved with that show has earned that opportunity, and I would like to see that happen, because I think it would be a huge hit. I really do.
Completely agree, man. Completely agree. I mean, like you said earlier, people love the spy thrillers, and I think this one would just be like Zero Day, where it would have lasting long legs and be able to sustain itself as a both television franchise and a film franchise. So I definitely think that would be able to be a smart idea for, revenue streams. That's for sure.
Without doubt.
My third pick, I think if it was adapted into a film, I think it would win Oscars. Not even gonna lie. Not even gonna lie. This is what we need at the 98th Academy Awards. 99th, 100th. Danny Strong, are you listening? Because you will win Oscars, my man. Number 3 for me goes to Dopesick. I think the war against Big Pharma as a film would be huge. Huge, especially with everything that's going on with Luigi Mandione and the United Healthcare CEO and everything that happened with that situation. And I just really feel like Hollywood's, battle against, like I said, Big Pharma and trying to bring awareness to the opioid crisis that is the United States right now, I think would be very successful, because we all know somebody or personally have dealt with some sort of addiction, and especially with opioid addiction. So I do think that this is a timeless story that could get told at any point in time in different generations, and bring back Michael Keaton for sure, because that man would win, Best Actor.
And Caitlin Dever. Shit.
And Caitlin Dever. She would do absolutely amazing as well. But this story, I think, is so precious and so near and dear to especially middle America's heart, the blue-collar workers who are just trying to provide for their families, who might get injured on the job and then have to self-medicate or medicate with things that they don't even realize they're getting addicted to. So this is a timeless story that I feel like could definitely reach a broader audience if you make it into a film and get it out there more internationally. Of course, it was out there internationally for Hulu, but if you get it out on a more broad, wide stream range to where like you are making a big difference in telling this huge story, I think it would do huge numbers, man. I'm just saying. So number 3 for me, Dopesick. It would be a great freaking film.
Yeah, and it plays right into my number 3, The West Wing. Aaron Sorkin. I feel like if you look at A Few Good Men, if you look at The American President, Sorkin knows how to spin a military / political thriller. He knows how to do it. He's maybe the best at it, right? So I think that The West Wing, up on the big screen, telling a story about a new administration. But of course, you have to have all the old people there in some capacity, whether they're advisors, whatever. But I always liked the idea. And Jimmy Smits, I would have loved to have seen that. I would have loved to have seen the continuation with Jimmy Smits as the president and Josh as the chief of staff. But I feel like they've kind of aged out of that now. So the other one that they had been talking about for a long time now is Sterling K. Brown as the president, with appearances by the original cast in advisory roles, or, members of the cabinet, or even Sheen as the former president coming and kind of guiding him along. I think you could take that and then mix it right with what you were saying. I think you could turn this into a really heavy drama about the drug crisis and the border crisis. And if done properly, which we know Aaron Sorkin could do, maybe even have the president and first ladies child a victim of a drug overdose and the war on the opioid crisis in America. But how do you do that when you are not for putting up walls and shutting down borders and keeping people out, but you have to understand of what's coming in, and your own family's a victim of the drug crime, and how would you, as an administration and the leader of the free world, deal with a situation like that? I think it would be an epic movie. I think Sorkin could handle it in a way that, regardless of what side you were on, you would feel empathy, you would feel compassion, you would relate to these characters. And I just think, man, how great would that be? Like, I just think, because you just look at Sorkin's storytelling, you go back and watch the original West Wing, it's relevant today, right now. Everything addressed in that show, you could just pluck and put it right into today's timeline, and we're still dealing with those issues. And I think Sorkin would just nail it on the big screen. It would be incredible. I would love to see the West Wing on the big screen in some sort of a very high stakes political, either drama or thriller type atmosphere. I think it would just be epic.
Completely agree, man. Completely agree. Well, number 2 for me goes to The Boys. I've always gone on record in saying that I like The Boys. I like the concept of superheroes being like actual bad guys or actual douchebags, to where, like, they're very Adrian Brody-esque, to where they only care about themselves, and all of these different things where they're the celebrities and there's a certain persona about them. But I always said too that I felt like the series I felt like it just drags along to where it makes it kind of slow. But if you turn it into a film, I think it would do much better, where superheroes are actually very selfish and very self-centered, to where they're doing things for their own personal gain and their own personal vendettas, I guess you could say, to where they're trying to have this public persona, but then behind closed doors they're actually a completely different way. And I think that would be a very interesting concept for a film, especially if, say, Marvel or DC introduced some sort of character that was kind of like that. Like if you turned Tony Stark into like a different type of like douchebaggy character, where he didn't care about the world, he didn't care. So I just think that would be very interesting, because we are in such a big superhero phase of cinema. So to show all different sides of that, I think would be very interesting. So yeah, number 2 for me, The Boys.
I love that. I like different aspects and different ways to tell different stories about things that are relevant right now. And yeah, I think that's a brilliant one. My number 2, I'm adamant, and I hate that this will probably never happen, but because we missed the opportunity, and I felt like fans were robbed of it. There was a decision by Warner Brothers way back in 2006, to go with Brandon Routh. And I'm not taking anything away from Brandon Routh. I think he did the best possible job that he could do with that film from Bryan Singer and Superman Returns to try to bring back the Superman franchise. We ignored 3 and 4. This was going to be a continuation of 1 and 2. He very much looked and sounded and acted the way Christopher Reeve was. I get the intent behind it. But at that particular point, at that particular time, there was a massive push from everybody to see Tom Welling's Superman make the transition from the small screen to the big screen and suit up as Superman on the big screen and take over the legacy. I think that entire cast and crew earned that opportunity. I think the fans wanted that. I think it would have been a massive hit, and I think it was a huge mistake by Warner Brothers to ignore the fans and say, no, we're just going to go this route and ignore what you want and ignore what Smallville did. And Smallville was a brilliant... Keep in mind, none of the stuff you see right now, none of it on television, the Arrowverse, even the MCU television show, none of it happens without the success of Smallville. It is what all of those shows were built on. And it was a classic telling of Superman that played into the mythology of the Christopher Reeve movies. They even had Christopher Reeve on the show at one point, playing into the crystals and the aspect and the origins that were built in those 70s movies, but in its own unique way. The chemistry between Tom Welling and Erica Durance as Superman and Lois, I think it's unmatched so far. I think they're the best interpretation of the characters young, although Tyler Hoechlin and Bitsy Tulloch came very, very close. And to this day, and I don't think anybody would argue this, Michael Rosenbaum, hand down, the best Lex Luthor ever. Best live action interpretation of Lex Luthor ever. And they deserved their chance to be on the big screen. I think this is a television show that screamed feature film. And I'm bummed it never happened. I'm bummed that I don't think it ever will happen, because obviously they've all kind of aged out of it at this point, which sucks. But this is one I would have loved to have seen turned into a feature film, because I think they would have just been epic in it. Like, seriously.
Completely agree, man. Completely agree. Well, number one for both of us, and it's just time, man. It really is. Especially with after the first 2 episodes dropping this past week on Disney Plus. It is time to see Charlie Cox's Daredevil on the big screen. He is ready to make his MCU debut in the film industry. That is for sure. I think what he is able to do with the Daredevil character and Matt Murdock is absolutely breathtaking, to be honest. I mean, what they're doing right now in Daredevil Born Again, him and Vincent D'Onofrio, is astonishing. You know, those first 2 episodes were so badass, and honestly, probably my favorite MCU television show to date. You know, WandaVision's up there, Falcon and the Winter Soldier up there, Hawkeye was fun, but I definitely feel like this is by far the best Daredevil, or the best MCU television show that we've seen so far. And of course, they are building off of the Netflix series, and it's just a continuation, blah, blah, blah. But, you know, Marvel adding their own little spin and introducing and mentioning different MCU's characters, like that person that's dressed up like a spider, and like all of these different concepts that I think they're going to continue to introduce throughout the season. But yeah, I think it's time that we see Charlie Cox as Daredevil in the MCU cinematic universe.
Yeah, just the little cameo in Spider-Man was not enough. It was a tease that should have been followed. Here's why I think this one needs to be done. This is the MCU's Batman. And I say that in the sense of a street level hero in a dirty, corrupt, crime-ridden city, trying to do his best and making questionable moves sometimes. Not always the nice guy, but always with the intent of being right, and doing right. I think this is the street level, dark, dirty, gritty superhero drama that Batman is to the DC universe, and works. Robert Pattinson's Batman worked brilliantly. Christian Bale's Batman worked brilliantly. Keaton's Batman worked brilliantly. It only went off the tracks when they fucking put neon and all that bullshit. When it was dark and gritty and a crime-ridden city and just street level, it works. Audiences like that. And Daredevil is that character for Marvel. And D'Onofrio's Kingpin is just that's a mob movie waiting to happen on the big screen. You could almost it doesn't even have to kind of be a superhero film. It can be a mob movie, and there's so many characters that you can weave Echo into it. You can weave Punisher into Punisher. We've had him up on the big screen before, and Thomas Jane's version was pretty good, but Bernthal, I'm like, fuck, man, that would be huge. But I think Daredevil is the catalyst for it. If you want a dark, gritty, street-level superhero film that works, Daredevil, it's time. People would flock to that, I think. I just think it would be huge. I mean, it's necessary, because what's the critique all the time? Oh, it's so over the top. All these superheroes, and they're godlike and they're otherworldly and all. Well, not Daredevil. Daredevil's me and you. He just has enhanced, senses, but he's basically a guy who can die, and he's out there fighting crime in a city where everybody's trying to kill his ass. And it works for me, man. It just works for me.
Completely agree, man. Completely agree. And I mean, we've seen the success of the Penguin on the DC side.
Yes.
So yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
it's
totally.
the same thing. It's mirroring Kingpin. So
Yep.
I think that would be absolutely badass. But we do want to know, what television show do you think should be turned into a film? Please be sure to comment down below in the YouTube comment section, or add us on X, Threads, all the good places, because we love the fan interaction.
We do.
It's a whole lot of fun to think about different concepts, that's for sure. But now heading over to the box office recap, Captain America Brave New World came back to the #1 spot. I think they still had the #1 spot last week. I don't remember.
They did.
I'm sick.
Yeah.
But they came in at #1 with 15 million. The #2 spot was Last Breath with 7.8 million. The Monkey came in at #3 with 6.3 million. Paddington in Peru came in at #4 with 4.5. And #5 was Dogman with 4.2. Now, the new movies coming out this week are Mickey 17, which I do believe will take the #1
It
spot.
will,
It's
yep.
such an interesting concept, and it is the first film since Parasite that Bo Jung-ho has directed.
Yep.
And I'm very excited to see this interesting concept with Robert Pattinson. It looks like it's going to be a very good art house, fun type of film. It's going to be out there, that's for
is.
sure. You're going to have to go into it with an open mind. But I do think it's going to be good, and I'm very excited to see that one.
And it's going to be interesting now, because 3 weeks in a row, and that's it, because I agree with you. I think Mickey 17 is going to take the #1 spot. Now we're going to see how much legs Captain America has. Will it be able to stay in the top 5 long enough to make some more money, or will we now see it quickly drop out of the top 5? Because it'll do, if it's able to stay within the top 5 for a couple more weeks, that's a good sign. But if it immediately goes from #1 to out of the top 5 within a week or so, that's trouble. But we'll see.
Yeah, we will. We will. There is going to be some more new films coming out in select theaters near you. In the Lost Lands, Night of Zoopocalypse,
Yep.
Queen of the Ring, and Rule Breakers. Those are going to be, like I said, in select theaters near you. And movies you can still go see right now: Hard Eyes, One of Them Days, Anora, The Unbreakable Boy, and Nizatu. Like I said, in select theaters near you. And then we're heading over to the IMDbPro's top trending segment. The top trending movie is The George, or The Jorge, or is it The George?
Gorge? Yeah, Gorge.
The Gorge. Listen, man, foggy. RIP, if you haven't seen it.
Yes.
The top trending television show is The White Lotus. I've been thinking about jumping on that one because it's so popular.
Oh, yeah.
And, of course, the top trending star is Michelle Trachtenberg. I'm so sorry. Because of her passing away.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if next week it's Gene Hackman.
Yeah, man. It's kind of wild. It's so sad when that happens.
It is.
But anyway, guys, we got to thank you so much for tuning in to episode 287 of ITCAF Podcast. Oh, my goodness. We got to thank our guest, Devin, for coming on the show and getting a little crazy with us. Be sure to follow her on Instagram and X. She is there under the same handle that you saw in the YouTube comment section. If you are listening to this, we'll put her handles in our our description, so you can find her there as well. And then, of course, be sure to follow the company on social media at Crazy Ant Media, the podcast at ITCAFpodcast, and our other podcast, our mental health one, at Everything's OKP on all social media platforms. And then, of course, you can follow us both personally on social media. Myself at J Logan Austin, and
at Crazy Ant CEO.
That's right, man. That's right. And you guys know you can subscribe to this podcast anywhere you listen to your podcast. We're on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Play Music, iHeartRadio, Podbean, Stitch, and so much more. And, of course, we're on YouTube. Be sure to hit that like button below, comment on the channel, and subscribe to all of the goodness that is Crazy Ant Media.
Yes.
And then, of course, be sure to visit our website, www.crazyantmedia.com, where you can start rocking the latest and greatest Crazy Ant Media gear, because we have a little bit of something for a little bit of everyone. Now, man, oh man, this week was fun because I had a lot of built-in grumpiness that was from the Oscars. So it felt good to let all of that out and just get it off my chest, man, because, yeah, I was very disappointed.
Same, man. I just, just bring back the show. Bring back the show. Bring back the flair, the jazz, the hurrah. Hooray for
Yes.
Hollywood. I want the big show. I want the big production. I don't give a fuck if it's 6 hours long. If I'm getting jazz, if I'm getting production, I'm okay. But I'm done with the boring stuff. Come on, guys. Come on.
Completely agree, man. Completely agree. But there was another highlight of the Oscars. We did get to see Whoopi Goldberg and the one and only make the stage to honor the one and only Quincy Jones. And we love her. Of course, she is the one, the only
Oprah!